Well, hello and welcome back to the podcast today. We have a really exciting one with a guest that's just as much of a road warrior as I am on the road for tips. And you can tell by the title already. This is Getting Personal with Stacey McPherson. Stacey, welcome to the podcast today. How are you doing?
Michael, I'm doing fantastic. It's good to be sitting in my chair in my home, and you well know we burn the roads up, so it's good to be home for a little bit here.
Yeah, I just got back from Kansas myself when we're recording this. Where have you been in the world lately?
I've been to Baton Rouge. I've been to Little Rock. Little Rock's a day trip usually, but Baton Rouge is pretty good little jaunt.
Absolutely. So, okay, we didn't even introduce yourself, but it kind of hints towards it. But so you're a program manager for Tips. Tell us a little bit about your role, your territory, and introduce yourself. Best you can.
Yeah, well, I'm a South Central program manager. I cover Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi, and Louisiana. I live in Arkansas, so that's kind of a benefit that I live in the territory that I work in, and that's the area that I cover: Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi, and Louisiana.
Yep. And, as we're doing these, the program managers are kind of the face of Tips, but every territory is a little different. So we already kind of hit on our jobs are really involved around the conference schedule and spreading that word. But what else does a typical day look like for Stacy in the central US?
Well, I'm not sure that there is a typical day. I plan my day out, but as well as I do, Michael, that get phone calls, get emails, vendors, members responding or wanting questions, wanting needing answers, and just really trying to help those vendors and members however we can. I tell members all the time, or actually, I tell the vendors all the time, we at Tips don't sell a product. We do not
Right.
sell a The only way that we generate revenue is by helping the vendors do projects with our members. So
Mhm.
we're just here to help, however we can. We've got members out there looking for products, looking for goods and services, and we're just trying to play matchmaker, with those vendors, being able
Mhm.
to identify vendors that, have those services that they need, putting those guys together, and then, allowing things to happen that way.
Love it. And we wouldn't change it for the world, would we, Stacy?
Not at all.
So, okay, so for those who need to know, how long you've been with Tips, and maybe what does the life of Stacy look like before you joined Tips?
Uh, well, Michael, that's I guess, kind of a loaded question because I've been with Tips in this capacity as a program manager since 2021. But I actually got involved with Tips, got introduced to Tips back in 2009. I had a technology company, and I was working with a small school district in Northeast Arkansas, giving them a budgetary quote in February of that year, and presented the quote to the superintendent. And as I was leaving her office, she said, "Are you a vendor with Tips?" I said, "What's Tips?" And she said, "Well, if you're a vendor with Tips, I don't have to get any other bids."
Mhm.
I said, "What's their phone number? How can I get in touch with them?" And so um, she gave me Mickey McFatridge was the former program
Yep.
manager for this territory, and she gave me his phone number. When I left her office, before I got to my car in the parking lot, I was dialing this number trying to figure out and got in touch with Mickey. I was in Corning, Arkansas. I had about a 30-minute drive home back to my hometown of Paragould, Arkansas. Talked to Mickey all the way back home, and Michael, you probably can't imagine Mickey having the ability to talk that long.
Oh,
But
for those of you who know Mickey, that's definitely possible, you know?
so I talked to Mickey all the way back to Paraguay, and I said, "Mickey, I said, I've enjoyed talking with you, and I'd love to meet you. What part of the state do you live in?" He said, "Well, my wife Carolyn and I just moved to a small town in Northeast Arkansas called Paragould." I said, "Mickey, are you kidding me?" I said, "I live in Paragould." And so we met the next morning for coffee at McDonald's, and developed a friendship and a relationship, and we actually became a vendor with Tips. We were a vendor with Tips for quite some time there until our business really kind of took a different direction. We started doing energy management solutions for Walmart, and you were asking about my life outside of Tips, and we that can be a curse or it can be a blessing. And Walmart's such a world renowned company, can be
Yeah.
very very difficult to work with, but we worked with them from 2013 until started kind of looking at selling my company to a general contractor in 2020, kind of right after COVID. I kind of started seeing some things change in that industry.
Yeah.
And our contract with Walmart was such that we were hired to install customer provided equipment. So that meant that Walmart would buy the equipment from Novar or whoever the companies were there. We would go and install it
Hmm.
and make it work and report back to the corporate office there. Well, the vendor that I was working with, the general contractor that I was working with, had just started an electrical division, and we had about 38 contracts at that time with Walmart. And I visited with him. I said, "Hey, instead of starting your own low voltage company, why don't you just buy me out?" And so we were kind of in the process of
Yeah.
negotiating that, and got a call from Mickey, and Mickey was getting ready to retire, and said, "Hey, I'm looking at maybe retiring, and would you be interested in maybe working with Tips?" And I talked to my wife about it, and I talked to David Mabe, and then talked to Jensen, and then here I am.
The
That's
rest is
that's
history,
the rest is history. So
and we've enjoyed you ever since.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
guess the tale that was told there is you've been solving problems for quite some time. Now you're
Well,
just helping
absolutely,
Tips and everything that we do.
absolutely, and
So
Michael, the interesting thing was, as I mentioned, we became a vendor with Tips in 2009, kept that for about 4 years there, working with some schools and all. But even after I got away from doing work with schools or cities and counties and all, I would still refer vendors to Tips. I thought a lot of
yeah,
Tips, thought a lot of David Mabe, and really what this organization does for the members themselves there. And I would, David was so I was fortunate that David would always take my phone call, and I would mention it to him, "Hey, I've got a vendor here that I'd like to introduce you to." And so I introduced several vendors to Tips before even becoming a program manager or even working in this capacity with Tips there.
absolutely. Well, like I said before, we're glad to have you. You're an excellent resource to your members and to vendors looking to get involved with our purchasing system and all that. So it's really good to have a vast array of all your past experiences now once again serving the public sector. That's kind of how I look up to you. But so speaking of, you're working with agencies day in, day out, you know, and we're checking in, we're keeping a heartbeat on things, or we're experiencing, one city has this problem, and what do you know, this city has the same problem, and now they're trying to find something that this city did or that school did. So real quickly, you work closely with these agencies. What are maybe some reoccurring problems that are appearing in the territory that one, we can talk about how maybe we fixed it, but two, for anyone that might be listening out there, hey, let's look into this. Let's see if it hasn't happened to us yet, it might. And what kind of things are you experiencing out in the field?
Well, every territory is a little different, has its own challenges and all,
Yeah.
and likewise, every state has different
Hmm.
procurement laws and procurement the way that they accept or the way they embrace interlocal purchasing systems. For quite some time, Arkansas has always been a great state with purchasing cooperatives. Have really embraced tips and purchasing cooperatives in
Yeah.
general. Kind of ran into a little bit of a hiccup about 4 years ago. Had some issues, and now in the state of Arkansas, school districts and cities have to go through a process where they have to go before the legislative audit to do to get approval to do a project over $1 million. Now, to
Right.
date, we've never had anybody denied. It's just a process that they have to go one more step, one more layer that they have to go to. But with all of that, there were a lot of misinformation, a lot of uh, stuff that was kind of shared that wasn't true, wasn't factual. And so I've spent the last couple of years in the state of Arkansas really just trying to educate and train people and let people know exactly what the law is and what they can do and what they cannot do, and what's permitted and what's not permitted. So I spent a lot of time, in Arkansas doing that over the past several years here.
Yeah, and that speaks to something that's just kind of at the heart of tips too is of course we have a solution, we have services and we have these things, but really we're doing a lot of advocacy in this. But the main thing is public agencies working with public agencies, especially across state lines like you said. We're here as a knowledge bank to help understand your purchasing needs, right? Whatever agency or school district that might be, right? Obviously, the default answer has to start with we're not going to go against what your lawyer says, right?
Sure.
However, there are things like you said with this new stuff, and it was kind of the perfect storm. Similar things happened in Washington. The state of Utah has a very similar thing that's even a little more centralized with the use of purchasing cooperatives or purchasing in general for the state of Utah, right? But each state has their own checks and balances. We're not here to circumvent that. We're here to show you how we could believe is the best way to navigate the state procurement process. Of course, do we believe that tips helps with that? Absolutely. If it turns into something where it doesn't even help, or you go a different route or whatever, we'll still have conversations with you all day, right? But back to the thing when it kind of came out, like you said, that legislation on that $1 million limit, right, and paperwork that it has to be filed, that came out right during COVID. The state of Washington had another procurement law, unrelated, but still came out right in that COVID area. And all the continuing education that the state procurement office might have planned got thrown out the window during COVID, right? Of, hey, this legislative branch has just passed this or this executive session or what have you. And so these things, and what develops is hearsay. And hearsay is never going to fly when it comes to public procurement, whether it's in favor or against of whatever you're trying to do and whatever you're trying to accomplish at an agency level, right? So that's what we're doing. We're advocating. We're talking about, okay, this is what the state law says. We're not here to interpret it, but take this, evaluate it on your own merits, bring in your team. Let me show you how to do it. And for the sake of for your territory, Stacey, generally when agencies are filling out that form, how long does that take?
Well,
Just
the legislative committee
yeah,
only meets once a month. They meet
yeah,
like on the first Tuesday of the month. So the paperwork's got to be filled out and submitted to the committee, and then the committee is schedules the school district to come in at
yeah.
the next available meeting there. So if they get paperwork in, obviously before the next meeting, then they'll come in at that meeting. If it's too close, it's got to be 2 weeks prior to the next
Mhm.
meeting to get it on the agenda. But that's the only constraints that we've had. Now, to date, we've had over 100 school districts to go through that process, and not a single project has been rejected. It's the waiver form process, and the way the law reads is that once in a physical year, the school physical year for Arkansas starts July the 1st till June the 30th of the following year.
Right.
So if you do up to $1 million of cooperative purchases there, and let's say hypothetically you do one project that's $500,000, the second project's $450,000, then you do a third project that's $100,000. Well, my math you've got 500,000 plus 450,000 puts you at $950,000. Even though that third project is the smallest of the three, it's the third project that pushes you over that $1 million mark that has to go before that legislative audit.
Right.
So there's been some confusion, and that's just kind of education on my part as well, where I'm trying to work with vendors. And the challenge there is this: if I'm a an HVAC company and I'm going in to
Mhm.
do a project with a school district, I don't know what other projects they have already done under cooperative
Right.
purchasing. Now I'm kind of forced to ask that or to inquire about it, uh, to make sure that I'm not putting them in a position where they do my project and that pushes it over that $1 million mark, and they don't follow the proper procedure to get that waiver process in place. So some
Right.
challenges within that regard there. Yeah,
Challenges that we're doing our best to assist regardless, right? And
yeah,
and that kind of boils it down is what we're doing and what we're trying to do is more than just cooperative purchasing. We're trying to help streamline the accountability of each state, right? There's things in Arizona that I help agencies do that again is around, like a state cooperative checklist. I mentioned Washington, I mentioned Utah, you've mentioned Arkansas, others, right? We're here to help and we're doing everything we can to help that. I think
yeah.
that kind of
What
sums up that whole idea, right?
one thing I want to mention, you mentioned attorneys earlier for school districts, and those the attorneys, they're there to protect their clients.
Yes.
That's their job, and they're gonna do that. Now, what I have found sometimes, they may not understand the purchasing laws or purchasing the way it's written there, but they're there to protect their clients. I had one vendor one time, was visiting with him, and he was telling me, "Hey, I've got a school district here that they're wanting to move forward, but their attorney won't let them." He said, "You tell them that you tell them that they've got to use my contract, that they've got to do tips, they've got to do this, And I said, hold on now, look, I can share, I'll be glad to visit with them, and educate them. But at the end of the day, it's going to be their decision. It's
Right.
totally their decision whether they want to move forward. I can't make them do anything. I can just share with them that yes, yeah, they can if they so choose, but it's their decision. So it's sometimes we kind of get it. Vendors want us to overextend our hand and force people to do something. Let me call my cousin Guido. I'll call him. We'll bring up the fast and go down there and heads together or something to force these guys to do a project. So
I
yeah,
know, yeah, and that kinda goes home with to some vendors out there. Your free public agency advice today is it's of course about meeting the needs of public agencies, but you cannot ignore that people are people. And
yeah,
so to barge in and say, "You should buy from me," or barge in and even say, "You should buy from me because I have a tips contract," you have violated the trust already of trying to obtain a government contract, right? So it's all about being personable, being a resource for these agencies, right? Obviously, meeting your needs and meeting their needs. That's what vendors do, right? They're the subject matter experts, and agencies hire them on because that's what they do, right? But relationship can go such a long way, and it talks how you carry yourself, how you build those relationships, your relationship of a company you used to own, your technology company that worked with public agencies, Walmart. That didn't come by forcing your way in the door. It came
yeah,
by being aware of the needs and doing your best to meet them. That's how you work with public agencies. So
absolutely.
uh all really really good stuff. So you've switched from being a vendor, and then coming over to the public agency side of things on tips, right? What are some of the best things or any stories that you could think of or events that happened to where your frame of mind might have changed a little bit from vendor side to public agency side? And so feel free to share any kind of insight there on switching the fence there?
Well, Michael, I tell people quite often is I used to coach high school football as well, so I've been in
There you go.
I've been in the school district there, trying to meet budget, trying to get the best bang for my buck. Spending my dollars wisely there. But then I've been a vendor as well. Working with school districts or cities or counties, trying to educate them on what products are good and what they need to how to purchase and that sort of thing. And now my role as a program manager is just that. I really try to educate these members and vendors alike, and just tell them, purchasing cooperatives is very, very vital, because it really puts the control back into the hands of the member. It
Right.
gives them the ability now. They're no longer buying on price. Now, look, let's face it, price will always be a consideration. Price will always be a determining factor, but it should never be the determining factor. If you're buying on price, strictly price, then you and you're trying to get the cheapest thing out there, quality just costs. It just does. Quality, it just now, Michael, my wife's taught me that very well. Quality is just cost. It costs good money to get good quality stuff. So she's taught me that
That's
very
what
well.
wives are for.
Absolutely, absolutely. But with that, getting the best bang for your buck doesn't always mean buying the cheapest thing. And I had a great facilities director. I was in Baton Rouge just a few weeks ago, and he was telling me, he said we used to buy Walmart paint, and not that there's anything wrong with Walmart paint, but we'd go and paint the walls there. And then had a new superintendent to come in, and we started buying Sherwin-Williams paint, and getting the Sherwin-Williams paint, we didn't have to paint the rooms every single year. So we were saving on labor, we were saving on buying no more paint,
Yeah.
because now instead of painting the rooms every year, we may get 3 years out of them or 5 years out of them. Well, that's labor and material that we're not having to buy to paint that specific room. We can paint some other room there. So
Yep.
it's important to understand and to know that quality just costs, and buying, better products, but better services there. You get a better, furniture. You can go down to IKEA and get a chair that, that you're probably going to replace that chair in 90 days or 9 months or whatever, but you get buy a good quality chair from, or good, school furniture from a good quality vendor that's going to last you for years and years and years. So, I've got, when I do my presentation, I've got a slide where it's kind of, imagine a big yacht sitting on a lake. Got a big
Mhm.
yacht on the lake. Behind that yacht is a little dinghy. The little dinghy is called the original contract. The big yacht is called the change order.
Yeah.
And now, when I share that and I put that picture up there, and it's kind of a visual representation, people in the audience, all these superintendents, oh yeah, we've been there and done that. We've been change ordered to death, where they come in
Uh-huh.
and they get the lowest price. They secure the contract by providing a low price, but then they change order you to death to drive that price, that their profit margins up. And with working with a purchasing cooperative, you don't have to get involved in the change orders. You can negotiate. You can talk about,
Mhm.
what you want. Got another quick story, if I've got time to share it right quick. Got
Yeah.
a lighting company over in Tennessee. This was last fall or last spring. They were going to replace lighting. Facility director met with the lighting company, and the facility director said, "Hey, we want this done ASAP." Now, this was in February, when the sales guy was meeting with the facilities director. The facilities director said ASAP, so the sales guy goes back and puts together the quote. Now, they're looking at doing the whole school here, so this is all the classrooms, the hallways, and everything. And so the project comes in about 3 times the price that it should have been, what the superintendent was expecting it to be. And he said, "Well, we can't do that. We're not going to do that." Well, what had happened was the facilities director said we want it done ASAP. So the sales guy took into consideration we're going to have to work on nights and work on weekends. We can't stage the project. It's going to take us 3 months to do this. Well, when I finally talked to the superintendent, he said, "No, we're going to do it this. We want it done this summer." Well, now that lighting company could go in and take all the lights out in every single classroom. They could stage the installation of the new product there. They weren't having to clean up the mess and leave, get the classroom ready for the new for school the next day. It just sped the process up, and so it brought that price way down. That installation price came way down, and
Yeah.
so that was a negotiated an event that was unintended, but there was just miscommunication when the facility director said ASAP. The sales guy took him at his word. Said, "Well, hey, we'll get it done. We can do it in March." Well, school's still going on in March, so you got to use those classrooms. And
Yeah.
but once they got on the same page, they were able to do it in May. Everybody was happy. The superintendent got it not exactly for the price that he wanted, but something that he could stomach. It was, I think, came in maybe at $25,000 or $30,000 over what he anticipated. But he was comfortable with that. It wasn't $300,000 more than what he thought it was going to be. So anyway,
Right. And that's just the tale of the public dollar, isn't it? All these things are happening everywhere, right? And you've got communication coming from maybe a point of contact. You've got the board members who are imagining something different. You've got the superintendent who's actually got a better idea that's going to save them X amount of dollars, and the vendor is caught trying to juggle it all, but so is everyone else, right? So open and clear communication with all parties is always a top tier strategy. Now, is that always achievable? No, but there's so many different things we go in all kinds of different directions of, well, someone said this, so I made the quote this way. Well, oh well, now we got to do that, right? And so, um, you know, comparing traditional bid and co-op is what we do, right? But sometimes you can have those conversations earlier now when you have a cooperative, right? Because it's not sealed. It's not a competitive sealed bid. Again, we've already done that, right? We've already incurred all of that paperwork, cost, whatever that TIPS has done, right? And so when it's a competitively sealed bid, you're going to open it up at 3 o'clock on Friday, and maybe the scopes of work were all different, and then maybe someone misunderstood something along the lines, or something was relayed improperly, and so now you've got a vendor who you had a great relationship with, who, due to whatever breakdown in communication, their bid doesn't even qualify because it doesn't meet the scope of work that's actually needed, right? You talked about difference of timeline. I've seen difference of, location. We've all seen all kinds of ways that bids can get messed up. And I think an underlying advantage of cooperatives that we don't talk about a lot is it opens those lines of communication sooner, right?
absolutely.
Of course, it's expediting the procurement process, but
Mhm.
it's also expediting a lot more and gives you access as the superintendent, as a facility director, as a judge for a county office, or whomever's working with that. It gives you access to vendors a lot faster
Mhm.
to then just make your decision on who's going to meet your need.
And Michael, you mentioned, with that, getting on the same page and understanding it. If I- I'm a vendor and I'm going to respond to a sealed bid, an RFP that's put out, I'm not obligated to let that member or that person that's putting that RFP out know if they've left something out there. If they've
Right.
left something out of the bid, it's not my job. I'm responding to the RFP as it's written there, and I
Sure.
make that example. I share with people. I tell them it's kind of like, okay, if you're going to buy a school bus, on an RFP there, and you write the specs out, and this company wins that bid, that low bid there, and they deliver the school bus on the back of a flatbed trailer. They pull it up to your school. They tilt the trailer back. They roll the bus off. You go out. you hop in the bus and you start the bus, and it won't crank over, and the sales guy says, "Oh, you wanted an engine in that school bus? Oh, okay, okay. Well, that's a change order. You didn't put that in the specs there, so we didn't quote that." So, and I'm being
Right.
a little facetious when I say that, and people get a good laugh out of that when I share that story, but that's that's true. I mean, they're not obligated. The responding party is not obligated to let the RFP owner there know what they left out. I'm responding to the RFP, and if you left something out, that's on you.
Mhm.
You could have written the RFP better. So, there's all kinds of benefits that are associated with cooperative purchasing. Putting the vendor or the member back in control, allowing them to select the vendor they want to work with, time that you mentioned, the ability to expedite and speed things up, speed the process up. They don't have to advertise it for X number of days. If they like the price, they can move forward today if they're working with an approved vendor on a cooperative purchasing contract there. So that's kind of the exciting part about what we do, is just being able to
Mm.
share with both vendors and members alike how the process works, and how when we award a contract to a vendor, we're doing that in a particular category. Now that
Mhm.
member can piggyback off that contract to do their specific project. And
Yep.
um, it's fun. It's enjoyable to kind of make those connections and help people out. And I love what I do. I love what I do.
Absolutely, Stacy, and such a great addition. So switching gears here, what we do, and we mentioned it at the beginning, and how we're getting out and educating a lot of the masses is trade shows. We have partnerships all over the place, whether it's just us sponsoring a booth or whether it's us becoming more of a national partner of different associations and membership organizations and places for schools and municipalities or any public agency to come and get certified, learn more about their industry. We love trade shows, right? So, for you, any that particularly stick out? That's something that we're kind of asking all the program managers because there's
Yeah.
different participations across the country. And it can be a certain state or it can be something that's kind of a multi-state. I mean, what are
You're
you enjoying the most right now when you're going out and teaching
absolutely.
people?
I've got there's three trade shows in mind that stick out. One is in Tennessee. It's the Tennessee Plant Managers Association. We have partnered with Debbie Shedden and the Tennessee Plant Managers Association there, so we help
Yeah.
sponsor their meeting. That's always in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. It's always a great time because now they do an extended stay there. School has just gotten out. The facility directors have kind of wrapped some things up, and it's an opportunity, I think, for those facility directors to bring some of their families. Gatlinburg is a great place to kind of vacation and do. So a lot of them kind of maybe take an extra day or two and come in and do Dollar World, and go see the bears at Cage Cove or what have you. So
Yeah.
it's a fun trip, and it's really kind of a laid back opportunity to meet with folks. Very, very, very well attended. Debbie and her staff do an excellent job of getting a lot of vendors there. They always have good educational stuff for the facility directors and that sort of thing. So that's a fun show. Back in Arkansas, there's two in Arkansas. One is the AAEA, that's Arkansas Association of Education Administrators. Now that encompasses all of the superintendents, the facility directors, and then the business school officials. So it's a large conference. You touch a lot of different people, and those people it's important to touch those people. The facility directors are going to be the primary contact with a lot of the vendors. They're the first folks that see that.
Yeah.
The superintendents are going to take the recommendations and take it to the board to get it approved, and the business school officials are the ones that handle the POs and make sure that process is followed, and they're staying in compliance with sending the POs in to TIPS PO at tips-usa.com and getting everything approved that way. The other events that I really like is Arkansas Rural Education Association. As you very well know, Michael, Arkansas is a big rural state.
Yeah.
We're rural, pretty much in nature. But I like that event because it's in July. The fiscal year has just completed. It ended June the 30th, and the new fiscal year, July 1, has started the new fiscal year. So they have this conference the middle of July. Haven't really gotten back into the office yet. The superintendents haven't, but so they're kind of still in relaxed mode. And Hot Springs is a great place to vacation as well. And so they kind of do the same thing. They bring their families in, but this is really kind of more like a fraternity. You've got superintendents that started out at a small school in Arkansas, and now
Hmm.
maybe they're at a Texarkana or Fort Smith or Bentonville, Rogers, Fayetteville, larger school district. They always come back to this Arkansas Rural Education Conference because that's where their buddies are at. And you
Yeah.
see a lot of them kind of just being laid back and picking at each other and having a good time, and it's they're there to get some training and learn as well. But it's really more about the camaraderie. It's more about the engagement that they have, not only with friends and all, but the vendors. I mean, Dennis Copeland is the executive director of that organization, and he really engages the vendors, gets them engaged with the members and all, making sure that we have ample time to visit and share, do a lot of different things with them.
Right. And here's how you could take that and apply it. Anyone listening, one, if you're an agency, whether you're in Arkansas or Tennessee or not, there are equivalent associations in your state. I guarantee it. I cover the North. There's a Missouri Rural Schools, right? There's plant manager, National School Plant Managers is an association that has local events near in every state. If I had to imagine, at least 30, right? There's associations that you can partner with to make you a better public servant, right? And then also on the vendor side, Tips is doing the same thing. We're trying to build rapport with public agencies. We do that at trade shows. Hop on. It's a blast. Like Stacey said, even it's really great when these events are in great places to not only do business, but Gatlinburg, Hot Springs, things like that. It's fun. But it's also where relationships and most of our relationships, if I would venture to say, start, right? And thirdly, if you're an association hosting a conference, check those out. They're obviously doing a great job. Stacy's recommending them. There's all this collaboration that can begin to take place. Oh, hey, I service rural schools in Florida. Well, might check out and see how did Arkansas become so great? There's all types of ways to collaborate, and we just wanted to put that little segment in there. Okay, so okay, before we wrap this up, Stacy, lightning round. Okay, we're doing this with all the program managers, just kind of some fun questions. Okay, so sports teams. Who are your sports teams, Stacy?
Shall I say any more? I've got the Razorbacks. I'm a big college. I'm a big college fan. I'm a diehard Razorback fan. So college wise, that's where I'm at. NFL. I like Kansas City just because I like Patrick Mahomes. I love a competitor. Patrick Mahomes is probably one of the best competitors out there.
Yep.
Baseball. I was born in St. Louis, so I'm always a diehard St. Louis Cardinal fan. And
Okay.
NBA basketball, gosh, I don't know. I mean, I watch it when they get down to the playoffs, but I really don't have an NBA team
No,
there.
that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so you cover 5, 6 states, something like that, maybe more. I don't have the map in front of me, but of all those places, what's your favorite place to go for a conference?
Well, Louisiana, Cajun country is just it's a different world. Is all I've got to say. If
Absolutely.
you've never experienced it, you need to. Especially around happy hour, when some of the organizations are sponsoring an after hours party at Baton Rouge and Lake Charles can be very entertaining.
You need to experience. My wife has family that's from south of I-10, and if you know, you know. That's where it's at, right?
Right.
Uh, what a fun bunch. We'll just leave it at that, Stacey. But another known fact is you have a wonderful wife, Kelly, who travels with you, and we want to know who's better at packing, you or Kelly.
Michael, I cannot end this podcast without telling a story. I'm going to digress here a minute. Now, I met my lovely wife, and if you haven't seen my lovely wife, she's drop dead gorgeous. But I met her on a blind date. And I'm thinking here that I'm going to be the knight in shining armor, thinking this poor girl, she's from Piggott, Arkansas. Piggott, Arkansas. Population 3,000 folks. And I'm thinking, well, okay, I'm from Paragould. I'm from a community of 30,000. I think, well, okay, this girl, I'm going to be the knight in shining armor and take her out, show her a good time, and make her day. So that's my thought process going into this. She shows up at my door when my mom's friend brought her over, and when I opened the door, I was mixing margaritas. I literally dropped the margaritas on the floor and just was just amazed at this beautiful woman standing in front of me. Um, we met May the 7th. We got married July the 31st. So that was my first sales job. I had to convince her that she needed to marry me. I'm proud to say that we'll be celebrating our 39th wedding anniversary this July 31st. I've
Congratulations.
got two wonderful children, five grandchildren, and yeah, she is the love of my life. No, now as far as packing, back to the question about packing, um, sometimes we almost have to get a U-Haul to just get all the luggage in. We've got a Volvo, but it gets packed out. We carry a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff. But having her at the trade shows is fantastic. She's a nurse. She got 7 nurses that report to her, so got a lot of flexibility, and so she can travel to these trade shows. I love having her around. I married her to spend time with her, and so we're kind of at a stage of life where we can kind of do that now. So we take
Yeah.
advantage of it. But she goes with me, and at the trade shows, she knows enough about tips to be able to talk the language and take a name and get an email address or a phone number, and she can point people out. Hey, this person stopped by to talk with you. Be sure to go over and see him. He wants to know more about tips and all. So she does very well. If I'm engaged in a conversation over here, she can. She'll talk with them and get pertinent information so that we can get back in touch with them there.
Would we all have a partner like Kelly? That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, Stacey. Last question, and then we'll wrap it up. So, if cooperative purchasing didn't exist, what might you find yourself doing and enjoying?
Woo, Michael. Well, one of the other things that we do, and Kelly's my partner in crime in this as well. We build some spec houses right now in our community. So we're building. We've got a couple of houses right now that we build and sell, and also I love kind of my specialty. We kind of got into that. We would buy foreclosed homes and then fix them up and resell them. My specialty is tearing things up. I can really tear some stuff up. So, going in and doing the demo work was what I was really good at. Now, Kelly's good at putting things back together and picking out colors. That's above my
Uh-huh.
pay grade. And I can't do that. So we work really well as a team there. But in the past, yeah, a couple of years, we started building some ground up spec homes and all, and we enjoy doing that. So we love seeing things kind of come to light and building. So I guess that's probably what I'd be doing if I wasn't
I love
in
it.
procurement
I love it.
world here.
Well, like I hope you can see, Stacey is a vast knowledge of experience and resources, and I just want to thank you again, Stacey, for coming on today and enjoying the Purchasing Made Personal podcast with us. So, with that, if you've listened this far, and if you want to join the now approaching 15,000 agencies who are using tips across the country. That's easy to do. We'll throw up the website and how to become a member and look into our vendors. We're here as a resource for free for public agencies. And if you're a vendor and want to service said agencies, well, we have a competitively bid solicitation process. Responding to one of our bids gets you access to our purchasing system. And that is what we do. So if you want to do that, feel free to follow this next link here. For now, we'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Purchasing Made Personal podcast. We'll see you soon.